안녕하세요. LA아줌마 소피아입니다. 미국에서는 코로나 바이러스로 인해서 아시안들에 대한 증오 범죄가 계속적으로 일어나고 있습니다. 최근에 89세 할머니가 뉴욕에서 두 남자로부터 얼굴을 부타당하고 또 등 뒤에 옷에 불을 질렀다는 그런 뉴스를 보고선 정말 막 화가 나고 소름이 끼치고 그러던 차에 증오범죄 신고 방법이라는 한국 책자를 발견을 했어요. 제가 그 책자를 보다가 이걸 만드신 분이랑 인터뷰를 했습니다. 그래서 인터뷰를 계속 이어서 보여드릴 텐데요. 이 책자에 어떤 내용이 들어있는지 좀 여러분들이 아셔야지 인터뷰 내용이 좀 이해가 되실 것 같아서 제가 일단 이 책자를 굉장히 빠르게 한번 지나가 보도록 하겠습니다. 일단 목차가 나오고요. 증오범죄를 저지른 사람들은 증오범죄는 어떤 영향을 주고 증오범죄를 신고해야 되는 이유, 여러분들의 권리와 또 예방 요령, 그리고 당한 이후에 해야 할 일, 그런 것들이 쭉 나와 있습니다. 상해를 일으키거나 피해가 가지는 않았지만 어떤 게시물을 부착하거나 아니면 낙서를 한다든가 아니면 욕설을 한다든가 이런 언어적인 부분은 이제 증오 사건이 되겠고요. 거기서 한 단계만 딱 나아가면 증오 범죄가 되는 겁니다. 괴롭힘, 학대, 또 부상을 당했거나 아니면 폭력이나 위협을 당한 경우에, 그리고 재산상의 피해나 폭력을 당했으면 다 증오 범죄입니다. 일단 증오 범죄를 일으키는 사람들은 심리적으로나 재정적으로나 모든 상황이 불만족하고 두려움과 증오에 차여 있는 그런 사람들이 보통 범죄를 일으킨다고 보겠습니다. 문제는 증오 범죄의 대상자가 되면은 불안하고 또 안정감을 상실하고 본인뿐만 아니라 가까운 가족과 친구들이 이렇게 당하게 되면 심리적으로 굉장히 불안정하게 되겠죠. 그래서 이 책자에서 가장 중요시하는 것 중에 하나가 만약에 이런 일을 당하면 꼭 신고를 하시라고 되어 있고요. 미국에 합법적으로 살고 있느냐 불법이냐에 관계없이 이런 헤이 크라임을 당하면 신고하시라. 그리고 제일 중요한 거는 어떤 범죄의 피해자가 내가 됐을 때 내가 신고를 안 하면 그 자체가 기록이 남지 않아서 그 범죄를 일으킨 가해자도 가해자가 아닌 거예요. 범죄자가 아닌 게 되는 겁니다. 그래서 꼭 피해를 당하면 신고를 해서 기록에 남아서 어떤 지역에 누구한테 어떤 사건이 일어났다는 그런 증거를 남겨야 되는 거죠. 그래서 일단 예방 요령으로는 내가 어디를 갈 때 항상 주변 사람들한테 좀 알리고 다니는 것, 그리고 신분증을 항상 지참을 하고 다니는 그 길에 어디에 경찰서가 있고 어디에 소방서가 있고 또는 마켓, 사람이 많은 곳, 어떤 곳에 가서 도움을 요청할지 그런 정도를 좀 알아두시라고 얘기를 하는 거고, 호신용 경보기 같은 뭐 호루라기나 아니면 페퍼 스프레이 그런 것들을 여자들이 갖고 다니는 경우가 많이 있는데 그런 거를 요즘에는 지참을 하는 게 없는 것보다 좀 마음의 안정이 되지 않을까 그런 생각이고요. 이 책자는 영어를 잘하는 그런 2세, 3세를 위해서 만든 게 아니고요. 영어보다는 한국말이 더 편한 이제 1세대, 좀 나이 드신 분들을 위주로 이게 만들었기 때문에 어떤 공격을 당할 것 같다는 그런 느낌이 딱 올 때는 그 상황을 그냥 피하라는 그런 얘기예요. 물론 뭐 그 상황을 같이 대처해서 싸우고 비디오 찍고 그런 부분에서 또 일어나는 신체 접촉과 더 큰 일을 당할 수 있기 때문에 상황이 악화되지 않도록 상대방의 감정을 이제 건드리지 않고 그냥 상황을 모면을 하라는 그런 얘기가 이제 있었고요. 조금 더 위협을 느끼면 911을 누르고 help 아니면 fire 뭐 이런 식으로 사람들이 이렇게 alert 할 수 있는, 돌아볼 수 있는 큰 소리를 지르라는 거고요. 공격을 당한 이후에 어떻게 해야 될지 여기 이제 책자에 좀 조목조목 써놨어요. 그 사람의 피부색, 얼굴에 난 털, 뭐 수염이 있는지 콧수염이 있는지, 그리고 머리는 무슨 색깔인지, 눈의 색깔이나 또는 키가 얼마나인지, 어떤 옷을 입고 있었는지, 어떤 목소리였는지, 나이가 어느 정도인지, 혹시 문신을 하고 있었는지, 장신구를 하고 있었는지 기입을 해놓도록 그렇게 당부를 하고 있고요. 그리고 무슨 일이 일어났을 때 그냥 참자, 이걸 그냥 넘기자, 잊어버리자가 아니라 본인이 피해자거나 그런 걸 보셨으면은 911 또는 211, 211에 전화를 하셔서 신고를 꼭 해주시기 바라고요. 911, 211 뿐만 아니라 여러 가지 도움이 될 만한 그런 링크들이 있습니다. 그리고 여기에는 영어는 제 모국어가 아닙니다. 이상한 사람이 나를 따라와요. 안전할 때까지 내 옆에 있어줄 수 있어요 라고 영어를 적어놓고 한국말로 적어놓은 그런 페이지들이 있습니다. 이런 거를 하나 갖고 있다가 영어를 잘 못하시는 분들은 주변 사람한테 그걸 보여주심으로 해서 도움을 요청을 하실 수 있겠죠. 그럼 지금부터 증오범죄 신고 방법을 제작한 에스터 림 씨를 한번 인터뷰를 해볼 거고요. 지금 우리가 여기서 얘기하고 있는 이 책자에 대해서는 비디오 아래에 여러분들 다 들어가셔서 참고하시고 프린트하시고 도움 받으실 수 있게 링크를 걸어 놓겠습니다. 여러분들이 지인이나 가족 친지분들 중에서 이민 1세대, 이민 1.5세대한테 이런 비디오를 여러분들이 공유를 해주시면 많은 분들이 도움을 받으실 수 있을 것 같아요. 그럼 지금부터 인터뷰 내용 들어가겠습니다. 오늘은 처음 뵙는 분인데 꼭 인터뷰를 한번 하고 싶어서 제가 줌 미팅을 하자고 했습니다. 한국말로 이런 책자를 만드신 분이 있더라고요. 그래서 제가 오늘 이 책자에 나온 내용과 그리고 이분이 왜 이런 거를 만들게 됐는지 또 이걸 보다 보니까 내 LA아줌마 패밀리들로 다 알았으면 좋겠는 그런 내용이 너무 많이 있어서 오늘 이분과 인터뷰를 하게 됐습니다. 그래서 제가 에스터 영 림 씨를 모실 건데요. 이런 인터뷰 잘 보시고 내용 좋으시면 엄지척 눌러주시고 또 이 비디오를 많은 분들한테 공유해 주시고 또 제 채널 구독하시고요. 그럼 지금부터 에스터 림 씨하고 인터뷰 하겠습니다. Hi Esther.
Nice to meet you.
I was kind of stalking you on Instagram and sent you a message if I can share your booklet or your project and ask you if I could do an interview, and you say, oh, you're willing to do an interview. So first of all, what made you to make this booklet? What was the background of making this?
Starting end of March, when all these hate crimes were happening towards Asians, like hate incidents, hate crimes all over America, I was very, very concerned about the Asian community, especially in LA and even all throughout the States, and I wanted to do something about it. I knew that the stigma with coronavirus starting in China, stigma against Chinese people being fat eaters or just being dirty in general, or being a spreader of the virus, it causes xenophobia, and xenophobia causes hate. And then it turns into racism, and then people acting and behaving very, very, it's not standing moral ground. I started this project with my friend who's a graphic designer end of March, and then we completed it in April. And then after that, I got translators to do this for free in Japanese and Chinese as well. So I got the translations up for them late April and May. So we have only 3 Asian languages, but there's so many other languages that I would like to produce in, but I just need more time and help with that. But yeah, that's the main reason why I wanted to do this project on my own, is just to protect the Asian American community.
When I went through your Instagram, I saw one of the articles that you wrote. Your parents is first generation and they work so hard for the better life and for the future for the next generation. And now it's our turn to protect them from hate crime. And so it's your case. Your parents are the first generation. Are you born here or you're born in Korea?
I was born here. My parents, they came in the 80s. And if the attacks that I saw on Asians all throughout the pandemic, if I would imagine if my parents were attacked by somebody who just hated Asians, they don't know how to profile, even between Chinese or Korean, I just thought to myself, I would be so mad and so angry and so hurt. How would I trust the people? How would I trust the government to protect us? you know, my parents are first generation Americans. They do well, they speak fluent English, but just the thought if they were to be attacked really hurts me.
Have you had any incidents for yourself? Not even during the pandemic, but even before, had any, you know, discrimination or racism yourself or your family or friends?
Well, not me personally. I really haven't. There was just one incident. I grew up in Oregon for 5 years. And in Oregon, we lived in Beaverton, and it was predominantly white. There were no Mexicans, no Blacks. We were the only Asian family. So I think around 5th grade, I had like many friends, but there was just this one girl. She assumed I was Japanese and told everyone in the class not to hang out with me because my people bombed Pearl Harbor. And so that was strange. Thank God, like I was blessed with good friends who didn't care what she said and who didn't even care about my background. I didn't have to explain myself, so I was very fortunate enough to have good backing, good friends. But other than that, I really haven't experienced like racial hate or prejudice that for me that I would know of. My friends during the pandemic though have. One of my friends, she was outside in downtown LA, outside her apartment, waiting for her boyfriend. And a group of guys, of white guys in a car, they stop right in front of her and start yelling at her, cursing her, saying to go back to her country, go back to where she came from, she doesn't belong here, and that she's dirty. And she was born in Korea, but like honestly that struck a chord with me because I'm like, she's one of my friends and she was just racially yelled at and harassed. And so I was like, for anybody as immigrants, you know, this is not their land, this is, you know, not their native tongue, and for them to feel like they don't belong, especially because they're not from this land, it makes it harder for them to go day by day living in America.
When I was in a cash register in my store, one of the guy came in without mask, so I told him, you have to wear a mask to come in. And he goes, that's what I'm trying to do. Do you have a mask? And I was getting a mask as he was saying that you people brought the virus. And it was kind of first direct hateism after the pandemic. I was pretty upset, but I could say nothing. I just said, that's a racism. I don't say you people to you people. He was a Latino. But regardless of the race, this is the thing that Asian gets after the pandemic, even though I felt like I don't get any racism in LA because there's so many Asians around. What would, you know, like you younger generation who has English as a first language would react at those kind of verbal attacks?
It's so hard to say. If it were me, I would get into a verbal argument because I just need to get it out there and I'm a straight shooter. But at the same time, it can become dangerous where maybe a verbal argument can lead to a physical attack. And in my booklet, I point out, don't engage in a verbal argument because it may lead to physical harm. For the older generation, the first generation, I would completely ignore it. I would not engage in conversation. I would just ignore it and leave. to get out of the situation fast before anything else escalates. If it were someone younger and maybe physically able, I would maybe say call them out for being a racist.
Why didn't I say more? Or why didn't I take out my phone and record his face, even though he would not repeat himself? I even was telling my viewers that you should record whenever you see something that you think is not right or that happens to you. You should always record it.
When it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
When it's safe to do so, you should record. But if it's not safe, you try to get out of the situation as fast as you can and report it. You have to report it.
I would have to report, including the hatred, verbal attack, as well as physical attack, because a lot of people will just let it go, forget it. It happened, but I didn't get any physically hurt. So a lot of people just let it go. But do you think that verbal hate crime is also one thing that we should contact 211 or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you have to. So 211, they take in all hate incident and hate attack reports. These hate incidents, whether it's verbal, might lead to an attack later on. So they need record of all this in order to target that community and say they need more resources, they need more security to help the people in that community. That's the reason why reporting is so essential. Hate crimes should always be reported to your local police department. Hate incidents should be reported to 211. But if you're scared to go to police, then you should report it to 211. Reporting to 211, they have free resources. If you are experiencing trauma from these hate attacks or hate incidents, they provide counseling, free counseling for you that's within your city. So it's really good. 211 is a great resource, even for housing, food resources as well if you're struggling. So, it's a community resource center.
So at the beginning of the conversation, like a few days ago, I was kind of asking you like a couple of times, are you a part of any organization or do you work for any organization to do this or for them? But you said you're doing it by your own. And it's amazing that you're doing this kind of a project with your friends, non-funded. What is the next step?
Self-funded.
What is the next step you want to do with this nice material that we can all help each other within the Asian community?
So I already got these booklets printed out, 500 booklets each, and they were very, very expensive. I put my personal money into it because, the older generation, they don't look at their phone, they look at printed material. Blue one is the Chinese version, the green one is Korean, and the purple one is Japanese. And I bought around 1,000 whistles as well to give with the booklet, because a personal whistle is something very useful to have in an emergency, because when an attack happens, when somebody's life feels threatened, they can blow the whistle or call for help. If you flip over to the back page, it says, English isn't my first language. This person is harassing me. Can you help me or stay next to me? It's here. So if a Korean 할머니, if she needs help but she can't speak English, she just shows the last page to somebody next to her to ask for help.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts in a written in a publication and all your effort. And I really wanted to 칭찬. Do you know 칭찬 in Korean?
Yes,
Give a
compliments.
give applause to what you have done here. And I wanted to highlight you as well as this booklet, because I could have just get your approval and share in the context to my viewers in my YouTube channel, but I also wanted to say thank you that all the hard works that you've done to support the Korean community. I'm a sort of a first generation myself, and I still have my Korean as my first language. So whenever something happens, I got and I ask my daughters, what should I do? You know, but somebody like you always think of your parents, your grandparents, and how to help them is really kind of making my heart really warm. And yeah, I really appreciate your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My family is everything to me, and I'm very proud of my heritage. Very proud. And so whatever I can, I will do it for, the sake of our community. And we just need to protect it as much as we can. But thank you so much for sharing this and interviewing me. It was very pleasant.
Thank you so much for sharing your time for today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
감사합니다.